they killed some of my people, doctor, nurses, journalists. Today they killed one of the journalists in Gaza. Today, before 1 hour. They come with the Israeli soldiers, and their government support them too.
Masu kallonmu a kan Gaskiya TV, barkanmu da zuwa cikin ofishin jakadanci na kasar Palestinian da ke nan unguwan Accra, wato Airport Residential. Yau dai abinda yake ya tara mu nan shine zancen taron manema labarai da ainihin jakada na Palestine na wannan ƙasa ta Ghana ya yi domin gaya wa duniya ainihin halin da al'umman wato Palestine ke ciki, musamman ma cikin kwanaki 10 da suka shige.
Today we will talk about what happened in Palestine and the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict. Before 10 days, Israel started to attack Gaza with the tanks, big bombs, and with the warplane. They killed 220 from the Palestinian people, 63 of them children, and 36 women, and 16 an old man and woman. 15 families killed from the father to the children, and injured 1,600 from the Palestinian people in Gaza. Nobody to now can know how many housing they are destroyed, because most of the people in the south of Gaza and left their housing because Israel attacked their housing. And some of them went to Gaza, another area in Gaza, sleeping on the street or on the UN schools inside Gaza. In these schools now, we have 40,000 people sleeping in these schools. About the people who injured, I want all of you to know, anyone losing his hands or his eyes or his legs, he will suffering all his life. Any family, Israel destroy their housing. They need a lot of years to build a new house. A lot of people after this war, especially the children, they will not feeling with the smell of the food. And some of them, you will watch him sitting alone in the room. They don't want to talk with anyone. They don't want to listen to anything. And some of them, they cannot sleep on the evening because they are hearing and watching on the TV the voice of the Israelis bomb. All the world know now Israel crimes in Palestine. In the beginning, let's talk about what's the reason about what's happened now in Palestine. There is 4 reasons. The first one, our president decided before a few months to do election in 22 May, after 2 days. We are waiting for 3 months to Israel government to allow to the Palestinian people who's living in East Jerusalem to vote on this election. Israel refused to allow to the Palestinian people who's living in East Jerusalem to vote on the election. Israel thinking, because the Trump promised them and recognized Jerusalem as a capital city of Israel, they thinking this is capital city, and this is against the international law. Because all of you know that according to the international law, all the land which occupied in 1967, it is Palestinian lands. And the Palestinian people who's living in East Jerusalem should vote in this election. When Israel refused, all the Palestinian people was very angry. East Jerusalem is the heart of the Palestinian people. We will not have election from now to the end of our life without the Palestinian people in East Jerusalem vote in this election. Because the last two elections we have to the parliament, the Palestinian people in East Jerusalem voting. Like all the Palestinian people who living in the West Bank and in Gaza. The second reason, there is more than 20 family living in area in Jerusalem. It's named Sheikh Jarrah. Israel approached this family from their lands in 1948. And Jordan government was in Palestine in that time and gave land to this family to build housing. They built their housing in 1956, and they are living in their housing from that time. Now the Israelis want to destroy to take their housing and give it to the settlers. I cannot understand why. People living in their housing from 1956, they want to take this housing and give it to the settlers. Israel government looking to have a problem with the Palestinian people, to continue the conflict with the Palestinian people. They are stealing lands every day. All of you know. All of you know they are stealing lands every day. Why did not stealing small lands and build to the settlers the new housing? Why they want to take the Palestinian housing in Sheikh Jarrah and give it to the settlers? And this made the Palestinian people feeling also very angry. Israel said, we will take this housing according to the court. The court following Israel. The court following Israel government. It is not international court to decide if this is justice or injustice, human rights or not human rights. So the court, of course, it will support what Israel government want. The third reason, since Ramadan month, all of you know that the Muslims go to pray in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This month for a prayer. The people sitting in their housing pray. Some of the settlers do some demonstration in the Palestinian area in East Jerusalem. And they start to shout in the Hebrew language, Mavit al-Aravim. Mavit al-Aravim means kill the Arabs. Not only the Palestinian people, the Arabs. The Emirate, they are Arabs. The Arab Saudi, they are Arabs. The Egyptian, they are Arabs. Algeria, they are Arabs. Libya, they are Arabs. Mavit al-Aravim, it means kill the Arabs. And the Palestinian people looking to the settlers, since they are shouting, kill the Arabs. And they was very angry too. The fourth reason, in the beginning of Ramadan, they tried to close one of the doors of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem. And this mosque is very important to the Muslim, like the Nativity Church in Bethlehem. The Nativity Church where Jesus is born. It is very important to all the Christians in the world. It is in Bethlehem, Palestine city. And in Ramadan month, all the Muslims go to pray in this mosque. Israel start to close the door small. By the end of the month, they try to close the door. The Palestinian people did not allow to them. And they start to do demonstration inside the mosque and around the mosque. And some of the Palestinian people who living inside Israel start to come to support their brothers. And our brothers and sisters, the Christian and the pastors who's living in Jerusalem, went to the Al-Aqsa Mosque to support their brothers inside the mosque. Some of the African people think that Israel is a Christian country. No. The Christian people who's living in Palestine, they are Palestinian. We are living together as a brother. Israel is Jewish country, not a Christian country. I don't like to talk about the religion and something like this. I will talk in politica. I'm not looking to them as a Jewish or this is a Jewish in your church. You are a Christian in your church. You are Muslim in the mosque. Outside, we are brothers. So they try to close the door. The Palestinian people start to do demonstration. And this demonstration, all of you saw it on the TV. It is peaceful demonstration. And the policeman of Israel start to attack them with the gas and shot some of them and arrested some of them. The demonstration increased because the Palestinian people don't like to see the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli policeman standing on the door of the mosque. Why? Why? People going to pray in the mosque. Why you are stand on the door of the mosque? And the settlers standing around the Israeli soldiers. And in the 28th of Ramadan, Israel decided to give the settlers time from 7 morning to 11 to enter the mosque. So all the Palestinian people will not allow to them. This for the Muslims. Go to your church and pray, please. Go to your place and pray. Why you want to enter the mosque for the Muslims? And this mosque, as you know, it is in East Jerusalem, the capital city of Palestine. According to the international law, all the world recognized East Jerusalem as a capital city of Palestine. All the world, except America and Israel. When Trump decided to recognize Jerusalem as a capital city of Palestine, how many countries support him? 6 countries. 3 of them, I don't know what it is named. It is small places on the sea, Iceland. But if we want to talk about the main reason about what's happened in Palestine, the reason number 1, it is the Israeli occupation to our lands. Since the last 73 years, all the Palestinian people suffering so much, and they are waiting for freedom and end the Israeli occupation to their lands. When the Palestinian people looking every day, morning and evening, how the Israelis stealing their lands and building of illegal settlement on their lands. When I say illegal settlement, I said according to the decision 2334 for the Security Council, 2334. And when they arrested more than 7,000 from the Palestinian people, 350 of them children, and 100 of them women and the students. When the Palestinian people woke up in the morning, and he want to go and visit his friend in the evening, and he found the checkpoints for the Israeli soldiers and the policemen between their housing and their villages on his way. This checkpoints not because there's something in Palestine or there's something against the Israelis. No, they want to do our life very difficult, to leave our housing and our lands. When the Palestinian people, they want to do our life difficult, to leave our housing and our lands. They want to control our dream. They want to control our food. They want to control our water. They want to control our economy. They want to control our agriculture. They want to control our life. It is the worst occupation in the history. The Palestinian people will not allow to the Israelis to destroy their life at all. We will not allow to them to destroy the future of our children. We will not allow to them to destroy the hope of our people. My people hate the occupier. My people hate any settler come on the evening or in the morning to stealing their lands. Anyone in this world will not allow to anyone to come and stealing his lands or his housing. Look what the settlers are doing every day. Every day, since the last 15 years, they are coming with some of the Israeli soldiers to protect them and they start to cut our tree and put fire on our tree to destroy our economy. When the Palestinian people looking for this every day, how they will feeling? They will be very angry. And the settlers, all of you know, they have guns. But they're afraid to come alone. They come with the Israeli soldiers. And their government support them too. And they stand by the side of the settlers when they're cutting our tree or attacked our housing, since the people was sleeping on this housing. Since the last 73 years, if any Palestinian people open the TV or the radio or read the newspaper or now in this time open his computer in the morning, he should read on the computer. They arrested member of the people. They're stealing some lands. They start to building a new settlement. They killed some of my people, maybe doctor, nurses, journalists. Today they killed one of the journalists in Gaza. Today, before 1 hour, they killed one of the journalists in Gaza. Or woman, or an old man or woman. If you want to know how much the Palestinian people suffering, now you are Ghanaian. And it is easy for any one of you to travel from Accra to Kumasi. You don't need to take visa. But the Palestinian people in Gaza cannot go to the West Bank inside their country without take permission from the policeman of Israel. The people who living in the West Bank cannot go to Gaza without take visa or permission from Israel inside your country. This is apartheid system. This is apartheid system. We are sorry that the United States of America support Israel. And all of you know, if America wants this war to stop now, it will stop. If America wants this war to stop now, not after 1 hour, it will stop. Now, not after 1 week, it will stop. And America did not allow to the General Security to publish a statement. Statement only, not to stop the war, statement about what happened in Palestine. This is the justice or human rights. I know that President Biden talked a lot of times about the human rights and the justice. We pray to see this justice and human rights in Palestine. So the main reason for all what's happened in Palestine is the continuing of the Israeli occupation to the Palestinian lands, on the land which occupied in 1967. There is no peace, and we will not see the peace in the Middle East without the establishment of an independent Palestinian state on the land which occupied in 1967. My people want only simple things. Only we want self-determination. We want in the Israeli occupation to my people on the land which occupied in 1967. And we want to live in peace with all the world. We don't want to see the occupation. Enough. Let the people to living in peace. Enough. And my people will defend about themselves. And they have the right to defend about themselves. Even if half of my people died. This is our lands. And the international law give us the right to defend about ourselves. And we want only the people who's arrested, Israel arrested them to back their housing. And there is 6 million Palestinian people. Israel uprooted them from their housing and lands. In 1948, they should back to their housing. They should back to their housing. They are living outside, some of them in Accra here, some of them in African countries, in European countries. They want to back to their country. They want to back to their housing. They want to smell their garden. They cannot go. We want to see the peace in the Middle East, but this peace will not be. We will not see the peace in the Middle East without we see Palestine state in the land which occupied in 1967. I would like in the end to thank all the countries which organizing demonstration support to Palestine. We see very big demonstration in all the world, support to the Palestinian people. In America, in European country, in Asia, in Australia, in Canada, some of the African countries. I would like to thank all of them. And I believe this support will increase because we are right and because we are looking for the justice and we are looking for the human rights. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much.
If anyone has questions, we would be happy to take those questions. But I'll say a couple of things for just 1 minute. For our Ghanaian audiences, what you must understand is that the happenings in Palestine is about human rights. You know, if you have a situation where people are evicted from their homes, where their land is being encroached upon, clearly that cannot be right. What is happening in Palestine is nothing but apartheid, you know, and what has happened pales in comparison to what has happened in South Africa. And you would remember that when South Africa, the Boers in South Africa, kept a majority of South Africans under subjugation, under apartheid, there were consequences. So all that Palestinians are asking for is for some consequences, is for Israel to answer for some of the activities. And as the ambassador has said, Sheikh Jarrah, where the demonstration started, is a neighborhood in Palestine. And as part of the attempt to annex more Palestinian territory, the Israelis went to this particular neighborhood, taunting the people and using language that is unbecoming. You know, so the people demonstrated, and then the Israeli came in with their soldiers. Can you imagine that in the third most holiest place for the Muslim population of the world, the Alaska Mosque is the third holiest place for Muslims? Can you imagine that any government in its right senses would send troops to a place of worship which is seen by billions of people across the world as the third most holiest place, in the holiest month of Ramadan, on the holiest night, sent in soldiers into the mosque to do the sort of things that they have done? So for our Ghanaian audiences, this is what has sparked the current violence in Palestine. And claims that Israel has a right to defend itself is neither here nor there. It's part of the language that is actually confusing the situation. You have a situation where one state is a country, is recognized globally as a country, with the military power and everything. It goes into another territory, it has annexed to steal lands, and then they tell you that the Israelis have a right to defend themselves. What about the person who was sitting at his home when you invaded? You told him that you would live here. He said, okay, you can have a piece of my house. And then you encroach into the kitchen, encroached into the living area, and before he could say Jack, you have encroached into his bedroom. In summary, that is the kind of situation our brothers and sisters in Palestine are faced with. And all they are asking for is a recognition, because that's the only thing that will bring about peace in the area, to be recognized as a state that is independent to carry its own affairs. Okay, questions? Okay.
My name is from Daily Guide. Okay, we keep hearing in the media Hamas fighting Israel, but we don't hear anything of the Palestinian government in itself. So what has the government been doing? Because we know we have Hamas and then, so I would like to know what the government is doing.
First of all the Palestinian people now united. All the Palestinian people in Gaza, in the West Bank, including the Palestinian people who's living inside Israel. We have 1.5 million Palestinian people living inside Israel. All the Palestinian people united, and our president talked with Biden and asked him to stop this war. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs talked with all the leaders in European country and in America. He talked with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of America too. And our government sent a lot of medical things to the hospitals in Gaza. And you see in the West Bank also, the people organizing demonstration, and yesterday only the Israelis killed 3 from the people in the West Bank and injured more than 100 from them. So the Palestinian people, Hamas did not working alone now. We are the Palestinian people working together. And listen to me, the problem did not start with Hamas. I don't like anyone to talk about Hamas now. The problem did not start with Hamas. The problem started when Israel started to occupy our country in 1948. And the suffering of the Palestinian people since the last 73 years. So I am happy that all the Palestinian people now working together. Our government working to do everything to support not Hamas, the people in Gaza. We are not talking only about Hamas. Now the people in Gaza suffering, 2 million people living on 360 kilometers. They are suffering. Some of them leaving their housing. A lot of them leaving their housing and went to the middle of Gaza. So the Palestinians now, we are working together.
My name is Benjamin from the Inside. Now, I would like to know what will be the main impediments should the state of Palestine decide to formally declare independence? Yes, what I'm saying that should they decide to unilaterally, backed by some of the Arab states, say that we formally establish the organization, what will be the main impediment? We've got a land where the Israelis are occupying. What are some of the constraints should we decide to do that?
Okay,
we are in the embassy of the state of Palestine. We are being addressed by the ambassador of the state of Palestine. So Palestine exists and has always existed as a state.
So that's what I'm asking. So what are the main impediments now? Now we know that the state has already been declared. What are the constraints? Because I do recall that under Clinton's administration, there was an attempt to ensure the formal creation, but that hasn't been done yet.
I don't know what you're talking about. You are in the embassy of the state of Palestine. Palestine is represented at the UN. Indeed, Palestine had a relationship with the African Union. Palestine is a state, so I don't understand the question you are asking, and has functioned as a state.
If I may add to, okay.
Again, Palestine has always functioned as a state. The problem in Palestine is the colonial occupation of Palestine by Israel. The problem in Palestine is the institution of a regime of apartheid, the worst form of racism. The problem in Palestine is the violation of international law by Israel. The problem in Palestine is the detention of Palestine, political detention of Palestinians without charge or trial. The problem in Palestine is the continuous stealing of Palestinian lands by Israel. That is the problem. You understand? I mean, since all of this began, I'm sure that all of us have seen a video which went viral in East Jerusalem. And I recall, for those of you who have seen that video, a Palestinian woman accusing an Israeli settler of stealing her land. And the Israeli settler said, but why are you complaining? If I don't steal your land, somebody else will steal your land. That is the problem in Palestine. It is not about whether or not Palestine is a state or is not a state. Palestine is a state, recognized by the government of Ghana, recognized by the African Union, and recognized by the United Nations. Over the last 10 days, there has been a war in Palestine. Are you not aware? So what is this thing about? There's a war in Palestine. Is there not a war? Are the Israelis not suffering casualties? Are the Israelis not facing resistance and so on? What is this question?
You see, it's a colonial system. I mean, just like we experienced under British rule, subjugation, which was resisted by our own people. You remember ex-servicemen, they were killed. That's, literally what is happening, except that the magnitude of what the Palestinians are going through is beyond measure. That Israel feels it can rule over Palestinians, it can continue to annex or to grab or to steal Palestinian lands, drive Palestinians away, and add those lands that they have stolen to theirs as Israel. That's exactly what is happening. And that is why the Palestinians, men, women, and children are resisting. Because if I am in my house and you came in, you got a piece of the house, and day in, day out, you keep encroaching, you've taken over my garage, taken over my living area, taken over my kitchen, taken over the bathroom. Now you want to take over basically my bedroom. Clearly, anybody would resist. So that is exactly what is happening. And what Palestinians are calling for is to have Israel account for the atrocities, for the genocide, for the apartheid regime or system that they are perpetrating on the people of Palestine. It's a case of one strong bully, using its military might because it has the backing of the United States of America, to do whatever it is perpetrating on the people of Palestine.
I want to add something.
Sure.
I want to say something. Before a few days, I saw Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, talking to the media. He said proudly that the President of the United States of America called him and support him. And he said, I don't know if he right or lie. He said 225 from the countries in the world called him to support him. 25. What about 175? When Trump decided to recognize Jerusalem as a capital city of Israel, how many countries removed their capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? How many countries? 5? What about 190? All the world recognized with Palestine. And East Jerusalem is our capital and our heart. All the world. Look what's happened. Look to the demonstration in the world, across all the world. Why you did not see demonstration support to Israel? You know why? Because all the world know they are wrong. They are killing children. Look to the housing. Look what's happening. I'm from Gaza. My family now in Gaza. And I know what's happening in Gaza. I know exactly what's happening in Gaza. When they killed the family, I know the father and the mother. I know them. When they destroyed the house, I know where is this house. They should stop. And all my people, believe that Palestine will be free one day. And this will be free. This will be free. If the Israelis want or don't want, it will be free. Any question?
My name is Naim Ahmed, former of GLA, and currently I'm with my own organization, INET. It's a young organization. What I've listened extensively to the submission of the social excuses for said. I've listened to one of as well. A few comments that you just explained. Now, the key issue is justice for the Palestinian people. Now, the problem that I want us to see and see whether this is a solution is there a platform for that kind of justice that we need? Why has the issue been continued from all that 70 years? Who are the key proponents? Why is the conflict going on? Because I think we all witnessed what happened to Libya and how it ended. Is there a certain agenda? Who are we going? Who will the world take responsible? Who are we going to charge for all these things? Where is the platform for that justice that we are seeking? And who is responsible? Who can the world take on for that? That's just my question. Thank you very much.
The platform for justice is not substantially different from the platform which provided the African people with justice. And it is not different from the platform which provided the Asian people with justice. And it cannot be different from the platform which provided the people of South and North America with justice. What we are dealing with in Palestine is a case of colonial occupation. What we are dealing in Palestine is a case of colonial occupation with the full ramifications of an apartheid regime as happened in South Africa. This conflict over the last 10 days has demonstrated something most significant. What it has demonstrated is the fact that the whole world is united behind the people of Palestine in their struggle for national liberation. Yesterday, I saw footage of mass demonstrations in Michigan, in the United States of America. And I saw hundreds of thousands of citizens of the United States of America pouring into the streets in solidarity with the Palestinian people and in protest against the atrocities committed by the Israeli regime. That is the platform. That is the movement. That is the momentum for the liberation of Palestine from the clutches of apartheid. It's important to recognize that the non-aligned movement, made up of countries from the South, including Latin American countries, including African countries, including Asian countries, and so on, has firmly declared its fullest solidarity with the Palestinian people. It's important to recognize that the African Union is in full solidarity with the people of Palestine. And it's important to recognize that close to 200 countries who are members of the United Nations have always declared their solidarity with the Palestinian people. Indeed, when Donald Trump declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, he couldn't count more than 5 countries which supported that move. So that is a platform. The platform is a global movement of resistance against injustice. The platform is a global movement of support for national liberation, as has always been the case. And it is important for those of us in Ghana to recognize that in spite of our internal political differences and so on, all the governments of Ghana have always supported the Palestinian cause. It's important, for example, to look at the records of the voting pattern in the UN General Assembly. And if you look at the pattern of the voting at the UN General Assembly, you would recognize that this administration, led by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has consistently voted in favor of Palestinian rights. You would recognize that the previous administration, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, took a firm stand in support of the Palestinian cause. Our governments, whether they were led by Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, or they were led by Professor Mills, or they were led by President Adekum Kufuor, or they were led by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, has always supported the Palestinian cause. And that is why Ghana continues to play a significant role in the battle to dismantle the apartheid system which has been imposed on the people of Palestine.
As you've mentioned, why is the issue keep going on? The point that there's this kind of escalation, this war that is going on, despite that's congregation, the fact that people have come together to speak and act and stood against the issue. Why is this particular thing currently happening? And why is it persevering? Is it that there is a force insisting? Because whatever insists persists. What are the forces that is engendering this particular situation currently as we I think one thing that when the ambassador was speaking, he mentioned about US somehow not agreeing with the fact that Jerusalem is the capital of Jerusalem. That is just a way that he touched on. But I mean, why? Who is the force behind this thing? Why is it continue? Because it's happening. And the world seeing the voices are there, the positions are there. People have already registered their discontent. It is clear. Now, why the world seems silent? At what point are these voices going to be heard? Who is the key? Who can we charge responsible for what is currently going on, given the fact that there is a global, opposition against what has been going on? Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I cannot accept that the world is silent over the Palestinian question. The world has not been silent over the Palestinian question. And indeed, the manifestations we are seeing in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, in Africa, in Latin America, and so on, are the clearest of testimonies that the world is not silent. Since this conflagration began, there have been various attempts to organize meetings of the Security Council of the United Nations in order to take a global position on the matter. As far as I'm aware, the only country which has opposed the unanimous decision of the Security Council is the United States of America. The only country. One country out of about 200 countries. So the world has spoken. Now, even when it comes to the United States of America, it is clearly visible, and I think it is important for us to recognize, that it is only sections of the ruling elite in the United States of America who are protecting the interests of the military-industrial complex and who, for all kinds of reasons, appear to be firmly behind the State of Israel. I referred earlier to the mass demonstrations in the United States of America, and yesterday there were demonstrations in Michigan, in Chicago, in Washington, in New York. Virtually every major city of the United States of America, people poured into the streets to demonstrate. And that should be the clearest indication of the popular support that the struggles of the Palestinian people enjoy, even in the United States of America. Now, it is important, for example, to recognize that, yes, the Trump administration declared Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel. Is that a popular move in the US? I don't think it is a popular move in the US. And of course, all of us know what has happened in the United States over the last couple of years. And we do know, as a fact, that the Trump administration lost elections, largely as a result of the fact that his policies were unpopular and so on. Even today, as we speak, the United States of America is talking at both sides of his mouth. On the Security Council, the United States is struggling to prevent the issuance of a unanimous statement by the Security Council of the UN. And yet, Joe Biden is calling for an end to the hostilities. The US is talking at both sides of his mouth. And the US is talking at both sides of his mouth because even the United States recognizes the legitimacy of the struggles of the Palestinian people. Okay? Now, the question is often asked, why is it going on? Why did it start? And so on. When apartheid started, and apartheid in South Africa went on for years. So, the most important thing is the forces of resistance, the forces which eventually defeated apartheid. Why? Fascism emerged in Germany, and it continued for years. So, fascism in Germany was defeated by a combined internationalist force of people who believed in democracy, who rejected racism, and who rejected policies of genocide. Yes, Israeli apartheid and colonial occupation has begun, and it is continuing. And it is continuing because there are persons who profit from it. They are stealing Palestinian lands, they are stealing Palestinian resources, they are seeking to dominate the Middle East and so on because of the abundant resources of the Middle East. But like all fascist regimes of the past, like the apartheid regime of South Africa, Israel's occupation will come to an end. The imposition of apartheid will come to an end. Israel will be defeated. The objectives of Israel will not be achieved in Palestine, and the signs are clear. The signs are clear. Over the last 10 days, Palestine has won victories which are unbelievable as far as most people are concerned. Never in the history of the Palestinian struggle have hundreds of thousands of people from all continents and in all countries manifested their anger and their disapproval of the Israeli regime and its tactics as has happened within the last 10 days. The demonstration that I saw in Michigan, the United States of America, is unprecedented. And the forces of peace, the forces against racism, the forces for national liberation are continuing to grow from strength to strength. A couple of years ago, the Palestinian people were resisting Israeli aggression with stones. Indeed, in many parts of Palestine today, the resistance is carried out with slogans and stones. Sheer audacity by the Palestinian people. Over the last 10 days, we have seen dimensions of the struggle that surprises even the Israeli intelligence and security. This struggle eventually will be won. And it will be won in favor of the forces of independence. It will be won in favor of the forces which respect international law. It will be won in favor of the forces around the world who insist on an end to occupation. It will be won by those around the world who insist that no Palestinian citizen should be in prison for political reasons. It will be won by the forces around the world who insist that all Palestinian refugees have a right to return to their homeland, and to be won by the forces which insist that there must be an end to the stealing of Palestinian land. Victory is with the Palestinian people, and victory will come sooner than later.
Finally, quick one. What has been the kind of support from the Arab nation, if I should put it around?
All the Arab countries stand by the side of Palestine. all the Arab leaders, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs published statements, support Palestine, and asked Israel to stop its attack to the Gaza Strip and stop attack the Palestinian people in the West Bank too. About what's happening in Gaza, you know, he united on not only the Palestinian people, all the Arab worlds, all the people in the Arab worlds. They are watching the TV, you know. Yesterday I hearing to one of the Americans people, he talk on the YouTube and he published it. He's, I cannot understand how anyone saw this picture or these children or this one. So how they are killing the children and did not stand by the side of the justice and the human rights in Palestine, did not stand by the Palestinian people. He will be crazy if he did not stand, and stupid if he did not stand by the side of the Palestinian people. This is our lands. We are defending our lands. And all the Arab worlds, we thank God that they are united to supporting to Palestine and the Palestinian people. All the leaders of the Arab world, they are support Palestine.
Because there has been question over the unity of the Arab world.
Yeah.
Because this struggle has continued for so long. And there's the feeling that they could have done something to stop each other. So do you think there's a change now going forward?
The change,
Or do you think this is still the same?
listen to me, most historically, from 1948, all the Arab people stand by the side of Palestine. And some countries sent to the Palestinian people some helping and support. Since that time, and to now, some of the Arab countries, most of them or all of them, stand by the Palestinian people. But some of them think before a few months to do some agreement with the Israelis and have relationship with the Israelis. This country in this war also published this statement supporting to the Palestinian people, because I think the leader cannot say something not good because their people will be angry from them. You understand? The people saw everything on the TV and read everything on the media, you see. And we are happy that now all the Arab countries, they are standing by the side of the Palestinian people.
But, sorry.
My brother, the settlers who are on the streets of Jerusalem, the settlers who are on the streets of the West Bank, killing the Palestinian people and so on, their slogan is "Kill the Arab."
Yeah.
The slogan, the clarion call is "Kill the Arab." So to a certain extent, this struggle is not about Palestinians. This is a struggle about humanity and its essence. You cannot be on the streets of Jerusalem, the West Bank, and other cities calling for the killing of Arabs and expect the Arabs to be disunited. That is their slogan. Again, only a couple of days ago, the Organization of Islamic Countries held a meeting at the foreign ministerial level, and all of them agreed on one thing, that it is important to set their differences aside and to rally to the Palestinian cause. The suspicion of disunity and so on, it may exist and so on, but it does exist as a phantom. The Arab people, the African people, all peoples of the world have an interest in ending apartheid wherever you find apartheid, and in whatever shape you find apartheid. All the peoples of the world, irrespective of their ethnicity and their religion, have a commitment to justice. That's all.
And this is an issue of injustice. Injustice anywhere else should be injustice against all of us. Many of you who are students of history would remember the kind of support that Ghana lended to countries within Africa when those countries were struggling against colonization in their respective countries. So it goes beyond, it transcends an Arab issue or a Muslim issue. It's an issue of injustice. And, humanity is but one brotherhood, So, and that is why you see that public opinion globally at this particular moment, in this particular time, sway heavily against, the Israelis. Even the coverage of what is happening, one could clearly say that fairly, it's been positive, albeit with some reservations, And as Kwesi said aptly, this battle would be won because it is an apartheid system, and we all should frown upon apartheid wherever we find apartheid. And that's why you see many citizens of Europe, many citizens of the United States of America, Ghanaians, Africans all over the place, rallying in support of a just cause. It has nothing to do with religion, it has nothing to do with ethnicity. It's a case of one country being stronger than the other and deciding to bully and to annex or steal the other, countries' land and territory and resources. That's what this is all about, And we are hoping that you in the media would carry this forward to educate our countrymen and women who for lack of information and education, see this as a fight between evangelicals and Muslims, to know that it goes beyond, what they are seeing, and that if it had happened to Ghana, Nigerians would have been in solidarity with Ghanaians. Sierra Leoneans would have been in solidarity with Ghanaians. People in the Middle East would have been in solidarity with us. So why must it happen to the Palestinians and we say because we are Muslims or Christians, for which reason we can't be concerned? If we don't respond and express our disappointment and anger over these things, it has ramifications for all of us. If this conflict spills over in the Middle East and oil prices increase, don't we all pick vehicles? We all pick vehicles. If oil prices increase, it affects our pockets. So I'm hoping that you see what is happening there in this particular light. Thank you very much. And on this note, without it, okay.
When you start, I want to ask what is Palestine doing, like if they are involving musicians all over the world to help them with the push of this solution. I think it's a powerful way to also send a message across the globe.
Yes, they are. Yesterday, you saw the Manchester City and Fulham match where two footballers waved the flag of Palestine. You've seen artists drawing the Palestinian flag. You've seen musicians say they would not perform concerts in Israel in solidarity with Palestine. You've seen Adidas in 2018 withdraw its support for the Israeli Football League because of concerns over these human rights issues. So all of us would have to get involved, whether we are journalists or politicians or artists and musicians. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen and ladies, on behalf of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign and on behalf of His Excellency, the Ambassador of the State of Palestine to Ghana, and on behalf of all individuals and organizations which support the Palestinian cause, including Honorable Ras Mubarak and so on, we'd like to thank all of you for coming. We are most grateful that you came. The struggle against apartheid, the struggle against colonial occupation will continue, and final victory is in sight. Thank you all very much.
And I pray the next year my country be free and invite all of you to my house in Gaza. Inshallah.
Tun dai taron manema labaran da ya yi armashi da gaske saboda ainihin 'yan jarida da suka samu hadarta daga sassa daban-daban. An yi tambayoyi to amma shi ainihin jakadar ya yi zantuttuka inda ya soma da ainihin godiya ga 'yan jarida da kuma bayani da ya yi na ainihin halin da yake al'ummansa ta kasar Palestine ke ciki, wanda yanzu ya ce a yanzu haka wa'anda suka rasa rayukansu da wanda suka samu raunuka wanda hada da yara ƙanana da mata suna da yawan gaske. Ya yi maganan cewa yara da suka rasa rayukansu 63, sannan akwai mata daga cikinsu 36, sannan ya ce wa'anda yake sun tsufa kunce tsofaffi masu rauni 16, sannan ya ce iyalai 15 wannan abin ya cika da su, wa'anda suke kwance yanzu haka suke fama da raunuka daban-daban su 1,600, inda ya yi magana game da ainihin abin da yake haddasa wayannan. Ya kasa shi gida 4, ya ce akwai ainihin siyasa na kasar, inda ya fito da magana na ƙarara na nuna cewa lalle ne ƙasar Isra'ila a daina sa wai zancen addini, domin addini ne ma ba Kirista ba ne, wato Yahudawa ne wanda yake akwai bambanci tsakaninsu da ainihin waton Kirista. To a nan ainihin wanda suka tallafa wa shi jakadar ya yi wannan taron manema labarai akwai shahararren dan jarida wanda ake cewa Uncle Kwesi Pratt, sannan akwai tsohon dan majalisar dokoki na Kumbungu wato Honorable Ras Mubarak, wanda dukansu sun yi zantuttuka masu gamsarwa game da wannan, da yake sun yi magana da cewa kamata yi al'umma su wato marawa ainihin Palestine baya, domin wannan yaƙi ne na wato neman kwatan hakinsu. Ya kuma sun kuma kwatanta wannan abin a matsayin wato wariya na ba launin fata ba, wato wariya na wato fin karfi da sauransu, kamar yadda abin da yake ya taba faruwa a wato Afirka ta Kudu, wanda daga baya Allah ya sa suka samu wata kansu. Tunde shi Uncle Kwesi Pratt ya yi magana matuƙa, domin ya nuna cewa akwai kishi da ake nunawa wato wannan ƙasa ta Palestine, wanda yake wannan haƙƙi ne ake son a ƙwace a cikin kowane wato lokaci da irin wannan rikici ya taso. Cin abu ne da yake ya kai shekaru 73. A nan mun samu Honorable Ras Mubarak, wanda yake tsohon dan majalisar dokoki na Kumbungu. Za mu zanta. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Hajj.
Honorable, ana kallon ka kan Gaskiya TV kai tsaye. Yau dai ka zo ga ka ba Palestine ba, mun san ka dan kasan Ghana ne, amma ka zo ka tallafa wa Palestine kuma ka yi zantuttuka. Me ya kawo ka nan?
To in ka duba abin da ke tafiya Palestine ya zama abin da ba adalci ciki, kuma mu yan Ghana lokacin da kasashen Afirka ma ba su da independence mun ji tausayi, kamar Namibia, kamar Zimbabwe, mun mara musu baya. Shi yasa inda za mu gan apartheid, rashin adalci a kowane kasa duka, ya yi incumbent, ya yi tilas a kan mu duka mu mara baya in ya so wannan abin da ke tafiyan nan a yi a kashe wannan abu. Shi sa saboda ya zama ba adalci a kasan Palestine, abin da ya sa ka gan kamar mu duka mun ce wannan abin da ke tafiyan ga ya affect mu duka, don in ba mu yi maganan shi ba, in kudin ya affect Middle East, in ya affect Middle East, in kudin mai ya je bisa, ko abin ga you are concerned about it or not, it will affect you.
Wato ko ka damu ko baka damu ba ya
affect ka.
Nan wannan abu ne da yake ya girme ni da kai duka, don kusan shekara 73 ake 73.
Yes.
To wani ya tambaya mu me za mu canza cikin wannan kowanmu ko yin wani abu?
No, haɗin kanmu could bring about changes. Saboda an ka duba South Africa lokacin da Boas suka takura musu, duniya duka an hada kai inda aka hada kai me aka samu an samu nasara. In the Germans, East Germany and West Germany, duniya dukan da aka hada kai an defeat wannan system. Shi yasa ina fata mu duka kuma mu hada kai mai yiwa ne mu samu nasara cikin wannan lamari.
Wani ya tambaya ce na ji cikin zantutukan da kuka yi da ainihin His Excellency da kuma Uncle Kwesi Pratt da kai don kanka kun ce akwai wani sakiya cikin wannan zanga-zangan domin kun yi misali irin karbuwan da ya samu kun yi misali Michigan, Chicago ina ne cikin Amurka.
Public opinion at this particular moment ya sway heavily against su yan Yahudawan. Saboda kowane kasa kowane gari abin ya karbi tarbo hadin kan nan kenan don yan duniya dukan an duba abin da ke tafiya kowa abin na ba kowa haushi abin na ba kowa mamaki kamar me yasa su yan Palestine ga suna kasansu Yahudawan ga su zo in 1948 su zo su ce kamar za su karbi kasansu kuma ko da yaushe ana karban musu kasa kadan. It's certainly not the best and we are hoping that situations will change. Na gode kore.
Honorable Ras Mubarak kenan kuka ji waton yayi zantuttuka daban-daban inda ya ce wannan fafutuka ne da yake an soma shekaru 73 to amma wannan ba zai sa waton kasa ba an ci gaba da yi domin tabbatar da lalle waton an cimma waton nasara waton ya nuna kuma da cewa yin haka wani abu ne da yake izan mu duka haɗin kai ya zo kamar yadda muka yi wa Afirka ta kudu a lokacin da take fama muka yi wa ainihin Jamus a lokacin da take ƙasa biyu waton Jamus ta gabas da Jamus ta yamma haka yi nasara to lalle ne in mu duka muka zo za mu iya waton cimma waton buri domin ya nuna cewa wannan lokacin yanzu an gundura da ainihin yadda Isra'ila take yin waton al'amuranta waton wannan abu ne da yake yanzu duniya baki daya in banda dai kasar Amurka da wasu kasashe masu ra'ayi da ita waton an gaji da yanayin yadda ko da wani lokaci ta tashi sai ta waton hau ta shiga waton Palestina ta je tana yin yadda ta gisu kuma abu ne da yake ya kamata a samu yadda za a yi ta zo karshe to wannan buri ne na waton wannan ƙasa ko kuma ce duniya baki daya shi dai honorable Ras Mubarak kamar da kuka ji ya yi magana kuma wannan magana ya ce mu duka ana buƙatar taimakon mu kuma ga duba ta bangaren Ghana gwamnatoci da suka zo duka sun mara wa waton Palestine baya domin akwai tambayar da wani dan jarida ya yi na ainihin menene matsayin ma Palestinian ƙasa ce mai zaman kanta. Uncle Kwesi Pratt ya ce gaskiya ƙasa ce mai zaman domin a yanzu maganan nan ofishin jakadancinta muke inda ba don ƙasa ce da ta samu karɓuwa duniya ba to ya za a yi a ce wato an ma ba ta ainihin jakadanci har a samu jakada da zai zo ya wakilce ta yasa duniya duka kowa ya san da wannan ƙasa Ghana ta yarda da ita Afirka ta wato tarayyar Afirka AU kenan muka je duniya United Nations ma sun yarda da wato wannan na jin abin da yake yawa kana kenan a taron manema labarai a nan ofishin jakadancin ƙasar Palestine da ke unguwar waton airport residential a nan birnin Accra ni kuma da yake na ja akala sunana Salu Sha'abu Sarauta nake cewa salamu alaikum.